The past couple days have been some of the most intense and emotionally overwhelming days in the history of the Jewish state. So, what is it like right now in Israel? And what is it like to be an Israeli? Well, Danielle Mor of the Jewish Agency, a close friend of mine, joins us now. So, Danielle, how are you processing the past couple days?
Well, Raj, these past couple of days have been truly like a roller coaster. And I think though some of us like the thrill of a roller coaster for, a few 30 or 60 seconds. But beyond that, it is just so hard to fathom because what we have prayed for literally 2 years, the anguish, the pain, the tears, the families set apart by the murderous terrorism of Hamas have now been reunited, not in full, because as we know, as we speak, there are still 24 hostages held by Hamas in Gaza. But beautiful 20 people were reunited with tears and with joy with their loved ones. And at the same time, while all this is happening, we Israelis have created not only these parties of solidarity all along the routes where the hostages were being brought to the hospital, we also stood by the homes of the fallen soldiers. We stood with Israeli flags, with singing hearts and prayers outside the homes of those that were murdered and that will never return. So between the joy and between the deep sorrow, we somehow have to manage all of this at the same time. And Raj, it's not easy, but we are so thankful.
I think one of the more interesting things about the history of the Jewish people is there's just been so much heartbreak, right? You and I were in Auschwitz together. We've done stories together about the Ukrainian Jewish refugees. I mean, then you can talk about the past 4,000 years of the Roman destruction of Jerusalem, Babylonian captivity. Now, obviously, this hostage situation, October 7th. So yeah, Danielle, maybe just walk us into the psyche of what it means to be Israeli.
So, Israeli in this sense, we're also speaking about Jewish Israeli. And when we speak about Jewish Israeli, it relates also to Jews that might be your neighbors in California and Jews that are living all across the United States and all across the Jewish world. And I have spent the past 2 years since October 7th really traveling and meeting and interfacing in so many ways with Jews here in Israel, the victims of terror, the refugees from the massacre, and also the Jewish communities around the world. I was just a couple of weeks ago in Colorado with the survivors of the attack on that march, that peaceful march in Colorado that only called for the release of hostages. And yet 2 Holocaust survivors were firebombed at that rally. And how do we deal with all this? Just look at what you hear and what you see from the hostages that have come home. What do their parents say to them? What do they write on those little etch-a-sketch notepads that are given to them in the helicopter? They write and say a few very similar things. First, they say, Am Israel Chai, the people of Israel live. All of our thousands of years of history are marked by miracles, by persecution, and by the never-changing reality that despite all who try to put us down, we somehow manage to survive and to thrive. And the second that you see everywhere is the most holy prayer, the Shema Israel prayer. Hear, O God of Israel, God is one. That is the prayer that so many of the parents of the hostages say as they're rushing to embrace their loved ones that have been in the Hamas tunnels for 2 years. And I think, Raj, that tells you so much. We are in pain. We are still in persecution in all these places. We have amazing friends like at CBN that we're so grateful for. And at the same time, we have our faith, and that is our greatest gift because it gives us hope and a purpose.
Well, you are an integral part of the Jewish Agency, and so you are a person who definitely has their finger on the pulse of everything when it comes to this situation. But for the person watching this who, is on the outside looking in, how should the average American or Christian around the world, how should they be praying? How should they be helping? Obviously, we're thrilled to see the return of the hostages. But for someone who just has a heart for standing with the Jewish people, what can someone at home practically do?
Many things, and thank you for that, Raj. First of all, I think they need to show up wherever there is a situation of a Jewish community that is somehow under threat. First of all, it means that any Jewish friend they have, any Jewish colleague, a person that they know, if they just show up and say, I am here for you in case you want to talk about what you're going through, in case there is need for volunteers at your synagogue to provide security means, in states and in areas where there's also need to write to the congressman and to advocate in some way with the administration, all those voters, Jewish voters in many countries are just too few. If you go to a city like Amsterdam that has an overwhelming majority of Muslim voters versus some 10,000 Jews, it means that the mayor's office has, not such a difficult decision who should they side with. So in all these cases, I would say that there are practical things that Christians who support Israel can do. Beyond that, of course, there is the prayer. And beyond that, there's also the practical means, whether you can come to Israel to show your solidarity and volunteer, whether you can send funds that will go directly to support in the rehabilitation of Israel. And that's also something that CBN and the Jewish Agency are doing together.
Well, let me ask you one final question, and maybe take off the Jewish Agency hat and just put on the Danielle hat. Obviously, I've known you for a few years now, and let me just ask you personally. I mean, the past 2 years, my friend, I know they've been heavy is an understatement, but just overwhelming. I can see the stress, the anxiety, just the pressure, the sadness. How are you, Danielle, my friend, and how should my friend here watching this be praying for you and your family?
Well, Raj, for me and my family, these past few years have been so difficult. My family has seen me, travel to Ukraine and come back really with scars that are invisible. We were all here on October 7th in the shelter of our home, praying that, that the Hamas attack won't continue further into Israel. And my daughters and husband have been so intricately involved with volunteering, with supporting in every possible way. My family has also had a very difficult year personally, not with regards to any of October 7th events, just because I have a daughter who is now a survivor of cancer, and that is such a harsh reality for any parent, and especially when you're a parent and a person on so many fronts. And I would say that at this time, if people could pray for our family and for so many other families here in Israel, it would be for peace, it would be for quiet, it would be for health, and it would be for us to be able to go on and to love and to serve and to be just another family that is living its life and walking forward with hope and with grace.
I think one of the most beautiful things about the Jewish people in Israel is that slogan that you guys have, Am Israel Chai. It doesn't mean, to victory or defeat the other guy. It just means the people of Israel live. Whew, goosebumps. And the thing is that what's so remarkable, what's so miraculous about that, Danielle, in my opinion, is that there's been so many times throughout human history. You talk about Esther, you talk about Cyrus and Daniel, you talk about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, you talk about Moses, where that existence was hanging on a thread where it was almost, the whole story should have been over statistically. And yet the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is faithful. He keeps his promises and he keeps his covenants. So let me just encourage you, my friend, that I know the Jewish people throughout the past 4,000 years have definitely felt alone, been alone, but in this current moment, you are not alone. I speak for all the Christian folks watching this around the world. That we love you, we support you. So grateful that your daughter is doing better. I know it can feel really isolating when you see the tweets and the headlines and the ridiculously demonic, evil anti-Semitism that's sprouting up. But as for me, my family, and I know for my friend here watching this, we just say unequivocally, you are not alone. And when we say Am Israel Chai, we don't just say that as a celebration. We say that as a promise. Never again means something to us. We love you. I want you to know that you're not alone. And that you're loved, my friend. But I will. I'll let you get back to your family. I know it's late there in Israel, but God bless, Danielle. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. And I'll just say that we're not just saying it, Am Yisrael Chai, as a statement, as a promise. We're also saying it with huge thanks thanks to our God, thanks to the one and only God. We're saying it in thanks. And that thanks and that hope is what we treasure. And we thank you also, Raj, and all your supporters and all your friends around the world who hold on to that.